have been going through a little struggle in my head. Some things bother me, And it's hard sometimes to get it out because, raising kids is hard and being a mom is hard, especially in 2017. And you got all these voices going on, all these people saying this and that and running their lips when they don't know what they're talking about. You just don't know who to believe. I'm going to tell you a story about my dad. My dad was, to me, he was my hero. Not because of being some kind of, pardon my language, but Billy Badass. But because my dad came home from a very dark place. I'll get to that in a minute. And he came home with battle wounds and battle scars. And he had all these limits that he set because he was so ingrained with this deep, dark fear. It started out when he was a little boy. He went to church in Chillicothe, south of Chillicothe, actually out on Musgrove Road, Peppermint Station, in that area. And his mama, who was a good woman, my grandmother was a good woman, took him to church. And they didn't have fancy clothes. They didn't have really anything. They had a farm. And my dad was a little boy, and he was excited about going to church. And he sat down, and they sat in the back of the church because they didn't want to, be embarrassed of their clothes and the way they looked. And my dad and his 4 sisters went to this church. And my dad told me a story about that day. He sat there and he listened to God's word, and he was so happy to feel included. And his mother put a little bit of money in the collection plate that day. A little bit. They didn't have much. And they passed the collection plate on, and at the end of the service, there was a ruckus, something had happened. And they accused my grandmother, who didn't drink, didn't smoke, and never cursed, of taking money out of the collection plate. That's what they did. They did. These people that were happy and at church trying to receive God into their life. And you know what my dad did? Billy Badass of Chillicothe, Bud Nunley. You know what he did? As a 5-year-old little boy, he stood up and said, "It was me. It was me." And he was embarrassed and he was ashamed because he hadn't done it. And his mother, my grandmother, beat him for it. And he took it. Never said, "Mom, I didn't do it." He just took it. Because that's what he did. That's what he does. Because he was good. But from that moment on, he decided, well, if they're going to look at me that way, I'm going to be that way. I will do my good deeds in quiet. The rest of it, we'll put on our bandanas and go. We'll ride on motorcycles. We'll raise a little hell, drink a few beers, hang out on Eastern Avenue. That's what he did. That was the beginning of my dad's life.